Today we are going to look at the radical Republicans versus Andrew Johnson. Where we left off, the radicals were congressmen that thought Andrew Johnson was going too easy on the South. They didn't think he was being harsh enough or wanting to punish the South enough. They are the ones that are wanting to help the freedmen, where it doesn't appear that Andrew Johnson wants to do that. So the radicals are getting really, really upset with Johnson. They'd approved the 14th Amendment. Johnson had opposed it. Johnson also wants to end Reconstruction. He thinks by the end of 1865, everything's fixed. Let's forget about the past. Let's continue on. The radicals aren't even close to wanting to stop it because they don't think enough has been done. They complain because they, being the Republicans, Johnson wasn't doing much to stop the black codes, which were going on in the South. Also, he didn't want to fund or give any more money to the Freedmen's Bureau, which was helping so many people. By 1866, the Republicans control Congress, so they're going to take over. They're going to come up with their own plan for Reconstruction, and they're going to get it passed, which Johnson was never able to do. And we're going to see it's going to be a little bit more strict than Johnson's original plan. So it was known as the Reconstruction Act of 1867. Three things Southern states had to do, and there was a catch to it. If Southern states didn't do these three things, there was a consequence to that, which I'll show you in just a second. So here is what they had to do. Ignore that for a second. I'm going to come back to that. Three things they had to do. They had to pass the 14th Amendment. They had to write new state constitutions. The old state constitutions had all this stuff in there about slavery. So they had to go back and edit or restart and get rid of any references to slavery. Finally, they had to let the freedmen vote. So they needed to do these three things. If they didn't do these three things, the military was put in charge. And the easiest way I can explain this is by showing you the map. So here's the South. You can see almost all the southern states were put into one of these districts. District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How they decided which states go in the district doesn't matter. Anyway, what would happen is U.S. soldiers would be sent into these districts, and they're going to be put in charge of these states. The analogy that I like to give, pretend like the Southerners are little children. And little children, as we know, can't always be trusted. So when the parents leave, the little children need a babysitter. The soldiers are the babysitter. So soldiers would be sent down into these states, and they legally are in charge of these states until the states agree to those three things: writing new state constitutions, passing the 14th Amendment, and letting freedmen vote. Once they agree and do those things, then the soldiers disappear. They go away. And we have to think, these are the same soldiers that had defeated the South in the Civil War. So the last thing in the world the South wants is soldiers or a babysitter down there telling them what to do. But that's what's going to happen. And a lot of the people that were sent down there to kind of lead this were some higher up Union generals. The South absolutely hated this, but that was the deal. If you do what we've asked, those three things, then the soldiers go away. You'll notice, and this is the last question I have up here, you'll notice Tennessee is not included. Tennessee was a southern state. The reason Tennessee was not included was because they agreed to do all three of these things ahead of time. Therefore, their reward was they're not going to be put into one of these military districts. There are no troops down there. So Tennessee is showing it's cooperating. The reward is the soldiers don't get placed there. In addition to that, everyone in the South would receive amnesty, forgiveness, except high-ranking government or military officers. So if you were in the Confederate government or you were pretty high up in the Confederate Army, you will be punished for your actions. The punishment was this: they weren't allowed to vote. They took away their voting rights, nor were they allowed to run for office. So was this enacted? Was it passed? The answer is yes. It passes through Congress. Johnson vetoed it, which he has the right to do, but Congress had enough votes to override the veto, so it becomes law. So what we have now is a much